Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed the task yesterday to sort different things into whether they were living things or non-living things, and hopefully you were able to find a different living thing to draw and describe. Today we're going to move on to talk about local habitats. We've worked on habitats before, but this is the first time we're looking at habitats which are local to us, which means they are nearby where we are living. So let me start by going through these. So our habitat. All living things do certain things called life processes. Can you remember the 7 life processes from yesterday? So if we remember Mrs. Gren, there was movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, and nutrition. And do you remember what these words mean? So movement, remember we're talking about the way things move. Respiration is our breathing. Sensitivity, we talked about that as being our senses. How do we react to different things? Growth, just growing. Reproduction, how new things are born or made. Excretion, how do we get rid of waste products? And nutrition, where do we get our food and drink from? So our habitat. So to stay alive and healthy, you and all other living things need certain conditions that let them carry out the 7 life processes. So we as human beings need food and water. We need space to move, grow and have our young. Air or oxygen to breathe, and shelter and safety. A habitat is a place where animals and plants live, where they can find everything they need to stay alive. It can be as big as the ocean or as small as a rock. So let's think, what is your habitat? So where do you live? What living things live and grow there? How does your habitat keep you safe and sheltered? So maybe it's the home that you live in. How does your habitat provide food and water? Where do they come from? And how does your habitat provide space for you to move and to grow? Humans are unique. That means humans are special because we can make big changes to our habitats to make sure we have everything we need. How do humans change their habitats? Well, we've built roads and we have vehicles so we can travel everywhere we need safely and quickly. We pipe fresh, clean water into our homes to use for drinking, cooking and washing. We grow plants for food and farm animals for meat and dairy products. And we even have pets to keep us company. We build houses with heating to protect us from the cold weather, or with air conditioning to protect us from the heat. Now, plants and animals can't make big changes to their habitats like humans can. They rely on the environment around them to provide them with everything that they need. Because different places have different conditions, the plants and animals that live there are different too. This means they have to live somewhere that has the right conditions to help them stay alive and well. We're going to look at some common British habitats. Urban habitats. Most people in Britain live in an urban habitat. They're areas with lots of buildings for people to live and work in. Some of the living things in urban habitats are here because people have put them there, like trees and hedges and plants in parks and gardens, and our pets. There are also many living things that grow wild in urban habitats. These plants and animals have found ways to survive alongside all the people that live nearby. Flowering plants such as nettles, daisies, dandelions and buttercups grow in parks, gardens and hedges. They even grow in abandoned buildings and through cracks in concrete. Many insects, slugs and snails live among the plants. Some animals, such as squirrels and garden birds, get their food from the trees and hedges that grow in cities. Other animals, like foxes, pigeons and rats, are able to live in cities because they get most of their food from the waste that people leave behind. So some ideas of plants and animals that live in these urban habitats. And there's some examples there. So this is the urban habitat. Woodland habitats. There are lots of trees that grow close together. Common trees that grow here include oak, ash, beech, hawthorn and birch. Most British woodlands are deciduous, which means the leaves fall off the trees in the winter. The fallen leaves provide food and shelter for many creatures and rot into the soil, making it rich and full of nutrients. As well as the fallen leaves, there are shrubs, flowers and grasses beneath the trees. These provide a home for many insects and invertebrates like worms, slugs and snails. The fruits and seeds of the trees and the small creatures that live among the leaves provide food for many birds and small mammals such as bats, mice, squirrels, stoats and weasels. Bigger mammals such as badgers, foxes and deer are common in woodland. There are also beavers, otters and wild boar, though these animals are less common. So there's some examples of some of the animals that you might find living in the woodland. Pond habitats. It's a still piece of fresh water. Some ponds are man-made and appear in parks and gardens. Others are natural dips and hollows in the land that are filled up with water. Lots of plants and animals live in the water in ponds, and many more live nearby. Some plants like water lilies, hornwort and duckweed live in the water. Other plants like irises and marsh marigolds grow in the damp soil near the pond's edge. These plants provide food and shelter for worms, slugs, snails and insects like damselflies, dragonflies, mayflies and water beetles. Amphibians like frogs, toads and newts eat the small creatures, and in turn these are eaten by mammals like bats and water voles. Many birds live near the water, including ducks, moorhens and kingfishers. There's some examples of creatures, living things living in the pond habitat. Coastal habitat. Britain is made up of islands, has lots of coastal habitats. These are places where the land meets the sea. Some of these habitats are sandy, some are marshy, and some are high, rocky cliffs. The plants here have adapted to grow in salty, windy conditions. These include samphire, juniper, sea kale, glasswort, and marram grass. Many of the creatures that live in coastal areas survive in rock pools left by the tides, like barnacles, mussels, crabs, and starfish. Wading birds such as oyster catchers, plovers, and sandpipers feed on these creatures, while seabirds like seagulls, kittiwakes, gannets, and skuas mainly eat fish from the sea. Dolphins, porpoises, and even whales can be seen in the waters around the coast. Seals and otters spend most of their lives in the sea, but come to the land to rest and care for their babies. There's some examples of animals from the coast. So what we're going to do is, today what I'd like you to do is think about a local habitat. It might be that you want to go to a local habitat. That might be a pond if you have one. It might be a pond if you know of another one nearby. It might be the river. It might be the woods. It might be your garden. But what I want you to do is make a map of what that habitat looks like. What sort of animals would live there and what sort of plants would also grow there. Okay, so you're thinking about a local habitat, a habitat near to you that you can hopefully visit. If you don't get the chance to visit it today, then maybe you could write about it for me, okay, and think about what types of living things like to live there. Okay, good luck guys.